why in India psychiatry and psychology are still considered to be a taboo subject?
They are considered pagalo ke doctor,
Yes.
right? So if I'm going to them, that means I'm pagal, I'm crazy, right? Even today in our culture, that अगर आप किसी psychiatrist or mental health professional के पास जा रहे हो, so then something is wrong. You're crazy, you are pagal. That's why you're going to them, which is why people are ready to go to even healers and वो झाड़ फूक वाले sadhu baba. They are willing to go to everyone except
A psychiatrist
going
or
to
a
a
psychologist,
psychiatrist.
yeah.
Mental health struggles are also correlated with weakness in some way. So because of that stigma, we don't talk enough about mental health, and when there is lack of talk, there is lack of awareness, right? So I think as professionals, being present on social media is to break that stigma and to be able to increase conversations around mental health.
Suppose you've got a guy who is, let's say, putting out a photo on Facebook. Every 15-20 minutes wants to compulsively check कितने likes आए, कौन like किया है, comment हुआ कि नहीं. Is this also a sort of addiction? That is what you'll understand this as?
Absolutely. It is what we call as dopamine addiction in a way, right? Like
Acha.
because likes and comments are associated with that dopamine hit. The moment we get one like, that's like a kick that we get. And when we get the kick, we feel that pleasure in our mind, in our brain, and we want more of that. Therapy is not something that there's something has to be wrong with you to sort of come and meet you. It's literally like how you meet people over coffee, over tea. You meet your friends and you share about the challenges and problems you're facing. You are doing just that, except you're doing it with a professional.
15 साल पहले ना, the average Hindi movie would be 3.5 hours.
Yeah,
And now
imagine.
people want OTT without ads.
First, the reels came out for 1.5 minutes, it used to be. Then they cut it down to 30 seconds because they realized that, attention span is even lower. So yeah, definitely, we don't have patience anymore. We don't have that attention span.
I have witnessed a suicide. It was middle of the night. We heard a lot of screams from the road. In front of me, a lady jumped from the water tank. What do you think is the psychological state of such people?
I think there was a time, I think 1.5 year ago, where I was in that moment where I felt very suicidal. Of course, there was no attempt and I came out of it, and because I had a lot of resources with me that helped me come out of it. But a lot of people don't have those resources. Their self-worth has dipped down so much and their emotional pain is so much that the only way they feel like they can put an end to this is by killing themselves.
Hello everyone and welcome to one more episode of Detox with Dr. Kapil. आपको पता है, मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि ह्यूमंस को है ना, दो चीजों के बारे में बिल्कुल आइडिया नहीं है. वन इज आउटर स्पेस. वी स्टिल ट्राइंग टू डिस्कवर अ लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स. सेकेंड जो मुझे लगता है, इट्स इनर स्पेस. यहाँ के भी अंदर क्या चल रहा है, कैसे चल रहा है, क्यों चल रहा है, आई थिंक वी आर स्टिल ट्राइंग टू स्क्रैच द surface. Today we are very fortunate and lucky that Miss Charvi Jain, who is a renowned psychologist, is joining us in our studio in Kolkata, and she runs a lovely practice which is known as Over a Cup of Tea. It's a very unique name. We'll find out a lot about the story behind this name in the podcast. Do keep watching this podcast to discover something about psychology and mental health. So welcome Charvi Jain to Detox with Dr. Kapil. We are in the lovely city of joy, Kolkata. First of all, good to see Jains in Kolkata also. यार हम वही discuss कर रहे थे. Thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of this podcast.
No, thank you for having me here. Happy to be here and honored to actually be invited here. Thank you.
चार्वी, एक फ्रैंक चीज मैं आपको बता रहा हूँ, मैं थोड़ा डर रहा हूँ आपसे बिकॉज आप एक साइकोलॉजिस्ट हो. मुझे कभी कभी डर लगता है यार कि मैं बात करते करते अगर ये कहीं मेरा तो एनालिस्ट कुछ करे ना, बट इफ यू हैव टू डायग्नोज मी, प्लीज डू इट आफ्टर द पॉडकास्ट इज ओवर, नॉट राइट नाउ. ठीक है, इट्स अ रिक्वेस्ट फ्रॉम मी. But you are a psychologist. We have established that fact, and you are practicing in Kolkata. I love the name of your practice, Over a Cup of Tea. It's a very unique name. Could you tell me more about that?
Yeah, there's actually a story behind it. When I moved to Kolkata, I was looking for places to work at, and there are quite good old established mental health places here. And I was very happy to find myself in one of those, and I I realized that the way the practices happen here, most of the places, they have a very clinical approach to dealing with mental health, which I understand where they come from, but I realized what it was doing to people. Like, I think there's already this existing stigma. People don't really, that's not their first preference to go to a mental health professional. And usually when they,
Agreed.
it's like a last resort, but they do muster up a lot of courage to go there, and they're supposed to be talking about their personal lives.
Okay.
So I noticed that clinical approach, really brought in even more stigma and like a big filter between, the clients openly sharing about their personal experiences. So after a while, I realized that I wanted to sort of the setup didn't set right with me, and I wanted a setup which was more warm, which was more inviting, to people. And as we all know, people of Kolkata, they love tea,
अच्छा,
and
ये भी है. Okay.
they do. And I think what I wanted to sort of give a message was that, therapy is not something that, like there's something has to be wrong with you to sort of come and meet you. It's literally like how you meet people over coffee, over tea. You meet your friends and you share about, the challenges and problems you're facing. You are doing just that, except you're doing it with a professional
Got it.
who have an expertise in that area. So yeah, it's literally over a cup of tea with
Got
a
it.
therapist.
मतलब you are basically playing on the comfort zone. You want
Yeah.
everyone to just feel a bit comfortable जब आपके पास जब आए.
Yes. Yes.
अच्छा, आपने बीच में एक चीज एक मेंशन किया कि बहुत स्टिग्मा है साइकाइट्री और साइकोलॉजी को लेके. आई विल बी कमिंग ऑन दैट अ बिट लेटर. लेकिन मैं आजकल जो देख रहा हूँ, एंड मैं शायद से गलत हो सकता हूँ, प्लीज करेक्ट मी इफ आई एम रॉन्ग, अ लॉट ऑफ psychiatrists and psychologists, mental health experts,
Yeah.
they're very active on social media, especially Insta पे आप जाओ, and अगर आपने एक रील देख लिया तो आपको पता है एक एल्गोरिदम एक
Yeah.
बैठ जाता है, and you have got a lot of these experts
Yeah.
who are exploding on social media. So ये एक एक्टिव चीज है जो सब एक्टिवली सही में कर रहे हैं कि it's just I think it's just coincidence for me.
Well, I'm one of them too. So,
Acha.
yes, I mean, yes, I do find that a lot of my colleagues are also present on social media.
Okay.
And I think one of the primary reasons why I got into social media, and I'm sure perhaps there are similar reasons to why other psychologists, psychiatrists are also coming in, because you mentioned the stigma, right? Like, I think we don't talk about mental health enough. You
Okay.
will hardly find where people are just openly discussing about mental health. I'm sure with respect to, your specialization, like if I have a lung issue or breathing problem, of course I would, go and speak to whoever I can find that, look, I'm facing this issue and I need help.
Correct.
I need to go to a specialist. But when it comes to mental health struggles, people don't, that's not the first, line of, I mean, that won't
contact,
be the
sort of.
first
Got
thing
it.
that I will do, that I'll go and share with people that, hey, I'm feeling so and so. Because I think mental health struggles are also correlated with weakness in some way. So because of that stigma, we don't talk enough about mental health. And when there is lack of talk, there is lack of awareness, right? So I think as professionals, being present on social media is to break that stigma and to be able to, increase conversations around mental health.
So आपको ऐसा लगता है कि आप जब सोशल मीडिया में when you put out a message,
Yeah.
let's say regarding depression, for example,
Yeah.
you feel you have a much wider range, there are more people who will listen to your talk and probably get inspired or might come for consultation. Is that what you're playing on?
There are two parts to it. One is that talking about, let's say, a topic like depression, it also encourages people to sort of engage more with that conversation,
Yes.
right? So if you are someone who can relate to certain symptoms that I talked about, at least it'll be in your mind that, oh, this is something that I might be experiencing. So even though you may not immediately go and seek help, at least you will know that, okay, this is something that exists and something I can talk about. And I know the word or the correct terminology to sort of use, not
Got
to
it.
sort of self-diagnose. I know that is also happening. That's probably the con of social media.
This is the era of Google,
Yeah,
so कुछ नहीं कर
absolutely.
सकते आप. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one thing. And as a therapist, me being present on social media, I think the other part is also to sort of bring in that human element to who I am. Like, because like you said, you coming in, having this podcast with me was also like scary, you mentioned, right? It was intimidating. So you can imagine for a person to come and talk to me about their personal life, it can be intimidating. But once they realize that, okay, I am a human too, and I go through my own struggles and I go through my own day to day just like they do,
Correct.
I think that also reduces that initial hesitation to reach out and talk to me.
But then would you say that every specialty must use social media? Like pulmonologists having this podcast?
Yeah.
आपका है blessings की नहीं?
Well, I think for correct information, I think sharing it with the public, giving more data and information, because I think today's day, while Google exists, but Google is like a general search engine. It can bring in a lot of myths, a lot of, I think a lot of times people come to me and they sort of say that, oh, I Googled it and this is what I'm feeling. Like, especially people with health anxiety, they will often come and tell me the worst possible diagnosis that they're coming up with. But if they have, doctors like you who are present on social media, and there is correct information which is being, which they have access to, it's more likely that they will have more filtered, more correct information rather than just something that generally they're reading online.
So yes, this Google patient has become a pandemic of sorts.
Yeah.
And all of us are in fact seeing this. आप पिछले 5 साल में देखिए जितने भी प्रैक्टिस है, जितने भी स्पेशलिटी में आप अगर देखोगे, we are facing this. But जैसे आपने करेक्ट बोला, yes, you need, even patients need a proper place where they can, and that is where social media, it is a double-edged sword. We can use it positively.
Yeah.
But देखिए अभी आपको ऐसा लग रहा है कि being a young psychologist yourself, do you think using social media you are able to connect with the millennials and Gen Zs better compared to, let's say, to a psychologist who's in his 60s?
Yeah.
You think you can do that better?
Well, I would ask you this question, if you were struggling with something, on a personal front, and you wanted to go and talk to somebody about it, wouldn't you choose someone who you can relate to more, who you think might be able to connect with you more?
Probably. I'll agree. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So I think from that perspective, yes, not to say that, I think professionals who are older, they cannot relate to younger generation, but it's just that sometimes we find it easier to talk to someone who is also perhaps, who's able to understand what we are going through, that relatability factor. So from that perspective, yes, perhaps people might, younger people, the millennials might prefer to go to younger professionals. Plus, I think the digital age that has come in, right? I think there's a huge gap between that generation, like our parents' generation, to where we are. There is that digital age that has come about. So the challenges that this younger generation is facing, like social media, like you mentioned, the elder population will not really understand those challenges unless they are also on social media and using those digital platforms as often. So I feel like somewhere it's easier for younger professionals to understand the current challenges also better.
But never say never, yaar. ऐसा मत बोलो, yaar. Of course, everyone can do it. It is challenging. I do agree.
Yeah.
But I don't want someone in my DMs, yaar, कि आपने ऐसे कर दिया ऐसे. I mean, I don't want that.
Actually, the opposite happened with me, wherein a client came and asked me recently that, hey, what is your age? And I was like, okay, why does that matter to you? And he's like, no, you seem so young. I'm wondering whether you will be able to understand, the depth of the problems that I'm facing as someone who is much older. So it can be the other way around also.
Don't worry, there's enough practice for everyone. Yeah, that's basically the message that we want to give.
Yeah.
लेकिन चारवी बीच में मैंने एक स्टेटमेंट बोला था कि social media can be a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Now I know we use this very colloquially कि यार ये तो सोशल मीडिया एडिक्ट हो गया है. एंड लिटरली आजकल आप देखोगे, आप कोई भी कॉन्फ्रेंस जाओ, आप घर के कॉन्वर्सेशंस जाओ, आप बिल्डिंग में नीचे खेलने जाओ, everyone is like this. आप you start a talk 2 minutes, everyone will listen to you, and then you can see कि everyone is basically on their mobile, ऐसा कुछ तो देख रहा है. So I think this is a reality. But what I wanted to ask you is there a concrete diagnosis or a condition known as social media addiction?
Well, as of now, we don't have an official diagnosis for social media addiction. Like we use, whether it is DSM-4 or ICD-10, we don't have a formal official diagnosis for it. But I think mental health professionals, they do recognize how common this has become. Like in terms of the behaviors and reactions around social media addiction, it is a legit concern when it comes to how much it is affecting and impacting the mental health of people. So while right now we don't have it, but I'm assuming and I'm guessing that yeah, going forward we may as well have it, because the symptoms that we see around social media addiction is very similar to other forms of addiction. For example, if let's say if I'm not using my phone and I'm sort of addicted to social media, we can sort of see withdrawal symptoms. There is a tendency of feeling disconnected, of anxiety coming in if I'm not checking enough. So the same symptoms that we sort of observe when it comes to other form of addiction also applies here.
Okay. कितना percentage आपका practice में you see people who are coming to you and you are actively thinking about, okay, this can be social media addiction?
So because it's not a formal diagnosis, we don't have a way of sort of drawing a line that okay, this is addiction and this is not.
No, but at
I
least
do
you are
see-
considering it in your practice.
Yes, absolutely. It's because I do see like indirect impact of it in many of my clients. For
Okay.
example, somebody who is feeling low and like the self-esteem getting affected, self-worth getting affected, because they are seeing their friends posting certain pictures and seemingly looking like they're having an ideal life,
Like a postcard, sort of. हाँ.
absolutely. So I do see that because there is being on social media can make us feel like, oh, I am the one who is feeling so and so, while rest of the people are having such a beautiful fairy tale life. So when we don't take a moment to reflect and sort of make us realize that look, we put out the best version on social media, sometimes that can keep playing in our minds and can increase that sense of low self-esteem.
Okay. Hypothetically speaking, suppose you've got a guy who is, let's say, putting out a photo on Facebook.
Hmm.
Every 15-20 minutes wants to compulsively check
Yeah.
कितने likes आए, कौन like किया है, comment हुआ कि नहीं. Is this also a sort of addiction? That is what you'll understand this as?
Absolutely. It is what we call as dopamine addiction in a way, right? Like
Acha.
because likes and comments are associated with that dopamine hit. The moment we get one like, that's like a kick that we get. And when we get the kick, we feel that pleasure in our mind, in our brain, and we want more of that. So we want more likes to come in. So we compulsively, keep checking that, oh, has it come? How many has it come? And counting it. So yeah.
चेहरे पे मेरा एक स्माइल था, in case you noticed, because I think I was talking about myself only. मेरी वाइफ अगर देखती रहेगी तो she's proven to be right यार. वो मुझे
Yeah.
यही बोलती थी and I should try to refute her
Yeah.
कि ये नहीं है, but थोड़ा लगता है ना, wife is
Yeah.
right and I am wrong हमेशा. It always happens, yeah. She's
We all
always
are
right.
there. I think it's more common than we
Yes.
think it is.
Yes.
That's the sad
That's true.
reality.
But you did speak about the fact that lives are being, I mean, you are seeing this in your practice कि
Yeah.
lives are being affected. I want to talk about a very specific population and that is kids.
Yeah.
Now lately पता नहीं अभी वापस आप ये coincidence बोले क्या बोलो, I don't know. Screen time बहुत मिल रहा है बच्चों को.
Mhm.
We are seeing lot of autism spectrum disorders. Milestones बहुत डिले हो गए, बच्चे लेट बात कर रहे हैं.
Yeah.
सोशल इंटरेक्शन ज्यादा इतना है नहीं.
Yeah.
ADHD करके आजकल ADHD, you go, every mother knows ADHD, at least a term ADHD.
Yeah.
आपको लगता है कि ये सब इंटर रिलेटेड है, एंड इज दिस only because of screen addiction, or do you think there are more factors at play?
Yeah. So I think we should distinguish between cause and whether it can impact. So to answer your question very directly, I don't think that autism spectrum can happen because of social media use or maybe even ADHD. But yeah, can it affect them more? Yes, that's possible. So for example, for someone like me, if I have ADHD and I have a problem with sustaining attention over something, and then now I have social media and so many other digital platforms, and my phone keeps beeping, so then obviously my ability to concentrate becomes even harder, because now I have more distractions to sort of come in the way. So yeah, so it's not just with ADHD. I think even day-to-day people, regular people are finding it hard to concentrate, to sort of pay attention actively, for a longer period of time. So attention span has definitely reduced.
I was about to ask you
yeah.
this, and I
Yeah.
was going to give you an example कि
Yeah.
15 साल पहले ना the average हिंदी movie would be 3.5 hours. उसके बाद में आप नोटिस करो it's all 2.5.
Yeah.
2 hour 45 भी अगर टच किया तो डायरेक्टर को शायद से palpitations आ जाएगा. Now you've got OTT.
Yeah.
And now
Imagine.
people want OTT without ads.
Yeah.
So that जो आधे घंटे का ना, it is like 17 minutes.
Yeah.
So this is definitely something which I've observed. Thank God you just, you agreed to this
Yeah.
fact that yes, the
Yeah.
attention span has decreased.
Think about reels also, right? First, the reels came out for 1.5 minutes, it used to be. Then they cut it down to 30 seconds because they realized that, oh, attention span is even lower. So, yeah, definitely, we don't have patience anymore. We don't have that attention span,
Got it.
which could also be one reason is also that we are wearing too many hats. So, we have too many things to do and too many things that are catching our attention also. But secondly, we have also gotten used to that instant gratification.
Okay.
Right? Like earlier, if we had to watch, we were watching a series or a serial, we used to call it, we had to wait a full week to watch the next episode.
Correct.
Correct.
Yes.
And now
Ab aise
we
nahi
just
hai.
have to
Just-
tap a
True,
finger. You know, if I want something, I want a packet of chips. I don't have to go out, walk, and go to a store to buy it. I just have to tap on Instamart, Swiggy, whatever, and it comes to my doorstep. So
Basically, they're preying on our laziness, is what I feel.
and I see that
Everything.
in kids, they have that inability to wait for things. They want it now
Now.
and right now.
आप रील्स की बात कर रहे थे, तो अगर मैं आपको डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चन पूछूं कि मैं रील्स जो बनाऊंगा ये कॉन्वर्सेशन का कितना सेकंड्स का बनाना चाहिए, व्हाट विल यू टेल मी?
Well, as low as possible.
As low as
Yeah.
possible. देखा, मैं एडिटिंग टीम अगर सुन रहा है तो देखो 5 seconds 10 seconds, that's it. चलो बढ़िया. Last question about social media I want to ask you is, how do you manage, because see now social media has become an inseparable part of our lives. आप किसी को अगर बोल दो ना कि तुम्हारा सब accounts deactivate कर दो, no one's gonna agree. Probably a few people might, but practically, how do you tackle this?
Yeah. Yeah, of course, the solution is not to be off social media totally. That would just make you a weirdo, probably.
Exactly,
Yeah.
you won't fit in.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think there are ways how we can sort of healthily consume social media. One could be, by what I do personally that really helps me is that, creating time, like compartmentalizing my day and keeping time aside for, okay, this is the time when I'm going to check my notifications and,
Okay.
do my replies or go through, different reels, just like we do with emails, right? It's not a lot of us, we create some time that, okay, this is my time to like reply to all the emails, during the day. Similarly, we can do that for social media also, that, okay, this is my like half an hour, which I'm going to give myself, for social media. Even like putting off notification is a great help, I find, because I think notifications can be very distracting. So the first step would be from your phone, removing the notifications from those social media apps can be very helpful. Of course, a lot of people do digital detox even. I don't know how much helpful it is, but it can at least give you a break from that addiction, or that possible addiction that you might be moving towards. So people do weekly detox or like weekend detox or whatever works for you. But most importantly, I think just sitting down and reflecting in terms of how it's making you feel. Like following certain accounts can make you feel a lot of envy, for example. You feel less about yourself. So I think just reflecting on how it's making you feel is very important, and then sort of acting upon it. When you notice that, okay, yeah, following these certain accounts are definitely bringing in a lot of negative emotions, and I need to sort of consume those accounts less. Plus, there is a beautiful way of getting more from social media. Like if you follow, if we follow certain accounts which actually give out very
Positive.
credible information about things that matter to you, it can be a great tool to sort of learn about more things that that you are passionate about.
Correct.
So yeah.
Guys, जो words जो बोल रही है ना चावी, it's actually worth its weight in gold, really. It's very difficult to do, but
It's difficult to do.
I think after this conversation, काना का मुझे खुद को compartmentalize करना पड़ेगा, शायद से, and I hope it works for me. So let's see. चारवी, थोड़ा सा मैं आपको shift करना चाहूँगा because of practice of psychology and psychiatry in India. I would like to come to this subject. I have had very close friends who chose psychiatry as a subject. They were practicing in India. Some of them said they were not really happy. Because in your introduction also आपने mention किया है, बहुत taboo हो जाता है लोगों में, डर लगता है लोगों को. कुछ लोग बोलते हैं, अरे आप पागलों का डॉक्टर के पास क्यों मुझे भेज रहे? They literally use these words. Some of my colleagues have gone abroad, absolutely enjoying it, because they are like the first hurdle
Yeah.
of that the very fact that someone is acknowledging that there is a speciality which is important
Yeah.
is knocked off. So they're very happy. So what do you think, why in India psychiatry and psychology are still considered to be a taboo
Hmm.
subject.
Yeah. I think you said it yourself, right? They're considered pagalo ke doctor,
Yes.
right? So if I'm going to them, that means I'm pagal,
Hmm.
I'm crazy, right? So there is this big notion that exists, I think, even today in our culture that अगर आप किसी साइकाइट्रिस्ट और मेंटल हेल्थ प्रोफेशनल के पास जा रहे हो तो
Mhm.
देन समथिंग इज रॉन्ग, यू आर क्रेजी, यू आर पागल, दैट्स वाई यू आर गोइंग टू देम,
Mhm.
विच इज़ वाई पीपल आर रेडी टू गो टू even healers and वो झाड़ फूक वाले sadhu baba, they are willing to go to everyone except
A psychiatrist
going
or
to
a
a
psychologist,
psychiatrist कि
yeah.
नहीं बाकी सब पहले कर लेंगे. It's like a only when like everything you have done and nothing has worked, I think then people sort of consider, and also with a lot of hesitation they consider going to a psychiatrist. And I can tell you this from my own personal experience. So my father, he struggled with his mental health for the longest time, and it was very very apparent. His symptoms were very very real, and it's not something you can even hide. Like it was very very visible. But my grandparents just refused to take him to a psychiatrist,
Mhm.
and he lived with those symptoms for like about 15 long years until finally I think my mom put her foot down, and finally he was taken to a psychiatrist, and he had a very legit, very severe mental health condition which he was diagnosed with later on. But imagine if he got that help earlier on.
Earlier, things would have
Right.
been.
That's the sad part, that we live in a society where people, I think we are also very concerned about log kya sochenge. I think
लोग क्या कहेंगे syndrome. Yes,
yeah.
that is true.
And अगर देख लिए कि मैं जा रहा हूँ साइकाइट्रिस्ट के पास, it becomes like a big stigma that what will they think.
तो फिर चार्वी आप प्रैक्टिकली आपके प्रैक्टिस में ये कैसे ओवरकम करते हो?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you
Yeah.
told about over a cup of tea. I
Yeah.
agree. It's a lovely start. And I would love it if patients are more comfortable, come over a cup of tea, talking to
Yeah.
you, changing the environment. Yes, but do you do something more so that you become more approachable to these patients?
Yeah, so I think, like you mentioned, yes, the name and the place itself really reduces the stigma, and I saw that within the first year of my practice. Like, I didn't expect that at all, to be honest. When I
Okay.
started my practice, I started it that, okay, even if I get one client, two clients, it's okay, because I want to do something right, in a right way. But I could see that because of the name, people were hesitating less. They didn't have to hide from their family members that I'm going to, a psychologist.
Okay.
They could say it openly that, hey, I'm going to over a cup of tea.
Okay.
Of course, they didn't say it outright that it's a therapy practice, but that sort of helped reduce that. And when they sort of came in and they realized that, oh, yeah, it isn't as intimidating as they thought it would be. It's really like just talking to another human.
Correct.
And I think I was very mindful of the space also. So if you come to over a cup of tea, it's got a very living room kind warm setup. Like it's not that clinical place that you might think of at all. And that sort of also changes the notion that, okay, you are not a patient when you come to see a mental health professional. Like seeing them as humans, as somebody
Correct.
who
You're like a
is
guest.
going through,
होता है ना अतिथि देवो भव वैसा sort
yeah.
of. Wow.
But also, most importantly, I think when we talk about mental health, it's important to also sort of bring in that perspective that it's not like somebody is pagal and somebody is not. A lot of people ask me directly that, hey, does it mean that I'm crazy? But what is the definition of crazy after all? Like, it's not something you are or you are not. Like, there are aspects of crazy in me, and there are aspects of crazy in you also, probably, right? So
मैं तो हूँ 100%. My wife will agree. Yes.
Yeah. So I think if only we sort of embrace that part of us with realizing that everybody can go through certain things. It's not to do with you being a weak person, not being strong enough, or you're not able to handle your problems by yourself. I think the major stigma is that perhaps the fact that you have to go to a professional means that आप अपने problems को खुद नहीं handle कर पा रहे हो. So that also sort of stops many people from reaching out. But isn't it smarter, and like if I were struggling with, like, let's say stitching my pants which got torn, and I'm just not able to do it, but I'm still trying to struggle and I'm just still trying to stitch. But then isn't it smarter that, oh, hey, somebody who specializes in it, why don't I just give it to that tailor?
Your
He will
work will
do
be
it
done.
and it'll be
Exactly.
done. And we do that with our physical health problems. If I'm struggling with something, I wouldn't try and just fix it myself. The smarter thing would be that, or the more responsible thing would be that, hey, go to that specialist, get those testing done, have the medication, That
Correct.
is what is considered responsible.
Correct.
And I would say the same applies to mental health also. When you go and reach out to a specialist, you're being responsible and serious about your life.
Correct. Retrospectively, मुझे ऐसा लग रहा है कि probably I should have changed my approach as well. And I'll tell you my real life incidents. मैं जब मेरा PG कर रहा था, I had a thesis, COPD. COPD is a smoking related lung disease जो बहुत लोगों को होता है. What are the extrapulmonary side effects of COPD? ये मेरा thesis topic था, जिसमें से एक majority जो effect था वो था psychiatric manifestations. And मुझे इतना अजीब लगता था, मेरे पेशेंट्स मेरे साथ बहुत अच्छे थे एंड आई यूज्ड टू बी वेरी गुड विद देम. इफ आई यूज्ड टू टेल देम एक हड्डी का स्कैन करना है, नो प्रॉब्लम. पैर का स्कैन करना है, नो प्रॉब्लम. ये टेस्ट करना है, नो प्रॉब्लम. दे वुड नेवर इवन आस्क. बट द मिनट आई शुड टेल देम कि आपको एक साइकोलॉजिस्ट या तो आपको एक साइकेट्रिस्ट के पास जाना है, दे यूज्ड टू गेट वाइल्ड. एंड आई कुड मेक आउट दैट देयर इज अ रेजिस्टेंस इन देम कि यार सर ऐसे कैसे आप बोल दिया, मैं तो एकदम ठीक ही हो करके. सो ये शायद से probably if I would have adopted your approach, probably the way of saying atmosphere or something, probably it might have made a difference. But I think it's something which I missed out. So I'm glad you pointed this out, and it's very important for everyone who's listening on this podcast. Also there's a widespread confusion. Psychologist, psychiatrist, and mental health certified coaches. You've got all these terms. Social media में आपको सब मिलेंगे. What is the difference between all this?
I think that's a very valid question. And obviously for a lay person, it can be very confusing to hear so many different terms. There's also counselor, and then there's a clinical psychologist, counseling psychologist, therapist. Like there's so many terminologies. So I know that it is very, very confusing. So how I go about in explaining is that firstly, it's important to know two distinct terms. One is a psychiatrist, who is a medical, a doctor who has done their medical school and has done specialization in psychiatry. And they are the ones who help you with your mental health by prescribing medication. So their mode of treatment
medications,
is through medication.
Okay.
And then comes this other umbrella, which is like the counselors, the clinical psychologists, the therapists. And again, these are people who have done their specialization in counseling, in psychology, and minimum they have a master's degree. They can have an MPhil degree, they can be a PhD as well. But yeah, it's very important to sort of check that do they have their master's degree in psychology or not, because that makes them like a legit psychologist. Versus the mental health coaches, they are generally people who have done some crash course in being a coach or life coach. So they don't have that relevant experience or long-term education in psychology. They may have done a crash course in how to be a life coach, but just like you would want to go to someone with your mental health problems, when it comes to, they should have the relevant qualifications. So yeah, it's very important to check for the relevant qualifications before you go. How to choose between, I think, these professionals. Number one, I would say that you don't really have to choose between them. Whoever you have access to, whoever or you've gotten some reference, or you have that trust, of course, ensuring that they have the right qualification, just go to any one of them.
Okay.
That's the best thing to note, because sometimes the confusion can stop us from really reaching out, right? Just go to any first person, because they will be able to sort of then direct you. So in case somebody comes to me and I feel like medication can help them better, or medication can also help them along with therapy, I would automatically ask them and refer them out that, hey, you might benefit from seeing a psychiatrist too. And versus if, sort of somebody goes to a psychiatrist and they believe that, okay, at this point, you don't need medication, therapy might benefit you more, they will guide you to a therapist. Ultimately, we work together in this gamut. And sometimes the combination of therapy and medication also does wonders. So depending upon what you're coming in for, you will be directed to the right professional. But just don't hesitate in reaching out. Anybody who you can find. That's my message.
Very important words, because there's a lot of confusion going on. And the way she has put it is so beautiful. It's so precise. The best thing is, if you think you need help, at least reach out to someone, and then, someone can always direct.
Absolutely.
And it's important to know that you guys work as a team.
Yes,
so there's always a lot of cross reference, and, they will work as a
Yeah.
part of a team, which is excellent to know.
Absolutely.
चारवी एक चीज है, और मुझे ये थोड़ा पता नहीं, कभी कभी को फनी लगता है, आई नो आई शुड नॉट, बट मुझे थोड़ा फनी लगता है, इज द वर्ड स्ट्रेस. आई फील पता नहीं, पीपल डिफाइन थिंग्स वेरी डिफरेंटली, पीपल लुक एट स्ट्रेस वेरी डिफरेंटली. कुछ लोग का थ्रेशोल्ड बहुत कम है, कुछ लोग का थ्रेशोल्ड बहुत ज्यादा है. लेकिन मैं आपको पूछना चाहता हूँ कि फ्रॉम अ साइकोलॉजिकल पर्सपेक्टिव,
Yeah.
हाउ विल यू डिफाइन स्ट्रेस?
Yeah, I think stress is a word that we use very often, and very a lot of times I think mental health and stress, they go hand in hand. So yeah, I think how would I define stress? I think firstly, stress is a very normal bodily function. That is a very normal reaction to anything challenging or anything negative that happens in our environment. So in fact, stress is, we all know that there are two kinds of stress. I mean, while stress has a very negative connotation, it's actually there to protect us. It's actually there that helps us, that fight or flight mode that it brings us in.
Yes.
It saves us from so many accidents that we can have, because if we didn't have that fight or flight mode, we wouldn't be reacting in that quick manner.
True.
So stress is actually can be very, very helpful. I think we all know during exam time, if we go back to our student days,
Obviously.
we would take
No stress,
so many.
fail.
Absolutely. Like we would take that one chapter, we would take perhaps days to complete it. But right before exam, when the stress is high, we would do it in, within 1 hour. So stress can make us more focused. It can improve our productivity. It can help us deal with the crisis situation better because we are in that alert state, right? So we all know that. But of course, when we talk about stress, we don't talk about that good stress. We are talking about when it becomes too much, when we are almost like living in stress all the time. So why is that a bad thing? If I am constantly in my alert state, if I'm constantly hyper alert and ready to sort of react to something happening or not happening, very commonsensically, obviously, it's going to exhaust me, right? There will be burnout. If I'm constantly alert, there will be a crash that would come. Similarly, when we have anything like a coffee or like Red Bull, we feel very, very active at that time, but then there is a crash that comes after. So I think stress does the same thing. So while it is very helpful when we really need it, in important, times when we will need stress to, feel motivated, to even have the drive. People whose stress is very less, they would probably not even want to wake up or,
Exactly.
be motivated to do
Exactly.
things.
I was about to ask you
Yeah.
this, how can we have a stress-free life? Because अगर ऐसा है,
Yeah.
तो मैं तो उठू ही नहीं मेरे बेड से ना. I'll
Yeah.
just be lying all day because
Yeah.
there's nothing to look forward to.
Yeah.
But then don't you think it's better if we probably had two different words?
Yeah.
Stress is something probably beneficial.
Yeah.
Probably burnout is a good word which you use.
Yeah.
Probably
Yeah.
that's where the pathological side comes in.
Absolutely.
And आपने जब explain जब किया, the first word you told is it's a very normal,
Yeah.
I got stuck on the word normal.
Okay.
I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
See, I'm a big cricket fan.
Yeah.
Kapil Dev, the great Kapil Dev,
Yeah.
recently, if you heard his
Yeah.
talk,
Yeah.
वो यही बोलता था कि यार आजकल के जनरेशन बोलते हैं कि मुझे बहुत प्रेशर है, मुझे प्रेशर है, मैं ये नहीं कर पाता. एंड ही dismissed this talk. He was like, what nonsense are you guys talking? यार आप क्या प्रेशर की बात कर रहे हो? आप खेल रहे हो. It should be pleasure.
Yeah.
So what I feel is that the older generation probably looks at stress as a very different thing. Younger generation is probably looking at stress very differently. Is this something which you are also seeing in your practice, or am I imagining things?
Yeah. I think it's interesting how you mentioned, Kapil Dev and his comment. I think there was a very big debate that happened
Huge,
after,
huge.
right? And I think as someone who's been working in the field of mental health, I do find that, his comments sort of did dismiss a lot of aspects of mental health, which I do see as, problematic to some extent, So I think, I think he talked about pressure, pressure in performance. And I think in a way he sort of explained that if you like doing something, then the stress or the pressure that comes in that field, it shouldn't be bothersome to you. And while I understand where he's coming from, that, we must enjoy what we are doing. If we like it, we should enjoy it. But what it does, it also dismisses the existence of stress, then existence of the bad stress that we are talking about.
Burnout.
Yeah, burnout. It also dismisses other mental health disorders that are related to stress, for example, anxiety or depression, because it means that the problem is with your attitude. Like according to his comments, it for a person who is listening, it would be interpreted as, okay, that if I'm feeling a lot of stress or the pressure, or if I'm feeling anxious about certain thing, it's probably just because of my attitude is wrong or bad. That means it's under my agency to sort of change that. However, people who are really suffering, or actually they have a legit disorder, who are facing anxiety disorder, or who are facing the burnout due to stress or that pressure, it is very real to them. It's not something they can just snap out of, by changing their attitude. So to correlate that, it can really impact a lot of people from also talking about it, from seeking help, because anyway, this mental health itself is something which is dismissed and stigmatized. And yes, people from older generations often say कि ये stress वैस कुछ नहीं होता.
Exactly. I've had conversations like this. So
It's all in your mind, and आप सुबह उठो, wake up early in the morning, everything will be okay.
अच्छा से खाना खाओ.
Yeah,
that will be
exactly.
okay. Correct.
So yeah, and that's a problem that we have been facing, I think, in the mental health. I mean, as a mental health advocate, I think this is one of the biggest aspect that brings in the stigma, because people believe that if you're facing a mental health issue, it's just that you have an attitude problem, or you're just like too weak and too crumbly that कुछ भी थोड़ा खराब हो रहा है and you're just like crumbling under the pressure. But that's not true. Like I think be it the burnout, or be it anxiety, depression, it can really happen to anybody. And we know that many very famous athletes have also openly talked about their mental health struggles. We have very Bollywood celebrities who have talked about their mental health struggles even when they were in the peak of their careers, right? So it can really doesn't differentiate. It can happen to anyone.
But Charvi, do you think that nowadays you are seeing a lot of more burnouts? Is this something which we are diagnosing more, or have times really become too stressful? Because see, the older generation is not going to agree with you.
Yeah.
But let's see a lot of younger generation is listening to you.
Yeah.
आपको ऐसा लगता है कि burnout आजकल बहुत ज़्यादा हो रहा है? Our lives have become too stressful?
Isn't it?
I can't talk from the older generation point of view, लेकिन हाँ, मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि हाँ, आजकल बहुत ज़्यादा multitasking कर रहा है. Life has changed. Things have changed.
Yeah.
But there are two aspects of this. Either it's really become more tough, or probably people are getting a bit soft. It depends on what angle से आप देख रहे हो.
I would say the reason why this we are talking more about it, or this is something that has come in our vocabulary, is also because earlier, even when people faced anxiety, depression, they didn't know the terminology to define it. They didn't know how to voice it. Plus, we didn't have social media to sort of talk about it to like we would generally speak to one or two people and it will just stay because it will be talked in hush way. It's not something that would something that you would advertise about yourself. So I feel like it existed even in our previous generation. It's just that they didn't have the vocabulary to talk about it, to explain it. They didn't even know who to talk about it to. But also because we are living in this digital age, there are so many factors that has sort of increased more, that has made us more susceptible to burnout and stress and all of that. Because one is the competition has increased so much. Second is that we are able to sort of see, people, like if I'm a psychologist, I'm able to see, interact and find out psychologist, somebody who is sitting in a completely different country, and I'm able to see their work. So automatically the comparison increases, right? We are now comparing not just somebody who is my neighbor. I'm comparing with the best of people. And naturally, there is a lot of inferiority complex that it brings in, anxiety it brings in, plus, wanting to get there. Like you feel like you're never enough. Like I see reels like of younger children, like I think 4-year-old, 5-year-old, doing phenomenal things. And
especially dancing and all of that.
Imagine. And it's right here in my phone. And these are like these are not celebrities. These are regular people who I see, oh my God, there's so much talent. And then I'm like, oh my God, I'm like this 30 something. And I'm like, I can't even do 10% of what this person is doing. So it makes you question every single moment. And that has a huge impact.
And plus, I think this generation does have accessibility Because
Yeah.
you've got a lot of psychologists, psychiatrists, approachable, like over a
Yeah.
cup of tea. It's like a brilliant concept. Uh, I'll tell you a very interesting event. I had a short stint abroad.
Yeah.
And when I was abroad, there were days in the hospital in which, let's say, there were 10 or 12 patients who were lined up to come.
Hmm.
And I'm telling you, 12 patients to be seen by probably 3 doctors,
Hmm.
and the staff would start getting stressed.
Yeah.
12 patients,
Hmm.
3 doctors, and you've got, let's say, 3 to 4 hours, and they would start getting stressed. वो टाइम पे आई जस्ट कुड नॉट कॉम्प्रीहेंड दिस। आई एम लाइक यार ये तो बहुत रेगुलर चीज है।
Yeah.
सो डू यू थिंक
Hmm.
दैट यू नो थर्ड वर्ल्ड फर्स्ट वर्ल्ड ये दोनों में काफी डिफरेंशिएशन है विद रिगार्ड्स टू स्ट्रेस?
Absolutely. I think definitely is right. I think it sort of takes me to something concept that we probably studied, which is Maslow's hierarchy, which you may have
Mhm.
known about. So Maslow's
I was
hierarchy
poor in studies, I'm sorry.
talks about how it's a triangle wherein the bottom ones are like basic needs, like our basic needs of hunger, of shelter, all of that, and then comes, let's say, our social needs, having friends, having a social life, and like that it just goes up, to like self actualization. So so what Maslow talks about is only when our basic needs of the bottom of the triangle is fulfilled, only then we would think about the bigger things, which is
Correct.
self actualization, right? So for people in the third world countries, like people like us, I mean, I think there are so many people who are just struggling with their basic needs that they don't have time to think about their mental health, or how much stress they're facing. For them, it is about, I need to sort of earn this much money, or get this finances ready, and hence their definition of stress is just fulfilling the basic needs right now. That itself, if I'm doing that, is like, that's my major goal. But over there, of course, now that their basic needs are are met, now they're thinking about, okay, health, and
A lovely way to
looking
put it,
into
yeah.
positive practices for bettering my my health, which includes their mental health as well. So I feel talking about mental health is also a privilege that not many people have, and India, we
True.
really don't have
True.
the privilege to talk enough about
But
it.
I feel India is progressing really rapidly. So I think, I'm sure within the next, I think, a decade or something,
Yeah.
the bottom
Yeah.
half of the triangle should be taken care of.
Yes.
At least I'm hopeful.
Yeah,
But let's see.
absolutely.
With regards to stress, my last question to you is,
Hmm.
how should one de-stress? And if you are comfortable, could you tell me how you de-stress?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, of course. So we can just look at it as a very colloquial way, like like we talk about how much your cup is full and your cup is empty, right? So your cup is full when you're reaching that point of burnout. When you're like, sorry, your cup is empty when you're reaching that point of burnout, and so it's about filling your cup.
Correct.
And whatever helps you fill that cup, and it can be different from individual to individual. Like maybe for me, let's say if running helps me de-stress, I know that my husband's not a runner, and for him running is stressful. So same activity can be different for different people. It's about what helps you feel calm and relax and helps you fill your cup. So sometimes working on your passion can also be filling your cup, but if it's sort of making you anxious, it can also sort of increase the stress. So depending upon what that function, what is that doing for you? Just like we talked about social media, for some people it's a way to de-stress, going on social media, but then using it too much can sometimes even be stressful.
True.
So yeah, I think personally you are the best person to figure out what activities de-stress you. But very important distinction is that a lot of people think of distractions as something that is de-stressing. Like if I have a lot of work right now, piles of work, and that's stressing me out, I'm like, hey, why don't I go and watch an episode that will help me de-stress? But will that really de-stress me?
You're just postponing stuff.
Yeah, that might distract me from my stress, but it's not de-stressing me. But maybe organizing and cleaning up the clutter of the pile of work, even that seems like work, but it can de-stress me in that moment. So, depending upon what you're working, what kind of stress you're working with, it's important to see that, okay, are you looking at some activity as a distraction, or is it really filling your cup?
Got
So
it.
that's the distinction, which is very important. But I would like to add, because since you asked me my personal way of de-stressing, and I want to specially add because I see this in our current generation quite a bit, which is this act of multitasking. and we do it quite proudly, that, oh, I'm able to do 3 things, 4 things at a time. I might be eating and sort of maybe working on something, and I feel very proud about it, that see, I'm maximizing my time. And I think in our capitalistic culture, we are about maximizing time, right? But a very interesting thing, if you ask any neurologist, our brain is not made to multitask. Like we cannot multitask, and a lot of people would find it very very new and strange to find that. So whenever we think we are multitasking, our brain is actually switching from one activity to the other, and then
Okay.
coming back and then going. So
Okay.
that automatically reduces your attention span. It reduces your productivity. And
Okay.
while you might feel you're able to do 2 things at a time, you're actually, not doing it to the ability you will be able to do if you were just concentrating and focusing on that one thing. But why I'm correlating it with stress is that very often I find people being stressful because they have too many tabs open in their heads. And just like, a computer or any device can crash if there are too many apps open, same as with our mind. So, whenever there are too many things that we have to think about, it increases our mental load, it increases the burnout and the stress. So, my recommendation would be that really helped me also. And this was at a time when I just had my child, and it was the first year, and there was a lot, obviously, to do for my child. And at the same time, I wanted to get back to work. And when I would be at work, I would feel guilty that, oh my God, I'm not spending time with my daughter. When I would be with her, I'll be like, okay, I have calls to make and I'm not doing that. So, what really helped me in that moment was just compartmentalizing, this skill of just dividing maybe portions of your day. It can be week, it can be depending upon, how much you want to compartmentalize. So, what I started doing was I decided that, okay, from this time to this time would be time for my work. And in work also, I can divide it that, it is for, let's say, for doing sessions, for managing my practice, and this is for like social media. And then this time is like my like completely a full time for my daughter. And no
Okay.
matter what, I'm not going to negotiate between these
Got it.
time zones.
Got it.
Or I could see a change in my mental health, like there was like a huge change when I started doing that. And I also see that, when people try to do too many things together, it really can be very, very cluttersome. So it can be a great thing to incorporate in your day.
I think this is a story of every mother, especially the first year. And I think what she's saying, compartmentalization and managing things better. I think that's going to be a great boon to all the mothers, all the recent mothers, especially your first year, because things can get very hectic and very crazy. Just one thing, I love the fact you mentioned that we can't multitask. It's neurologically impossible. So if my wife is listening, Athira, because she always brags that she's a multitasker, it's neurologically impossible. Okay, thank God I said it. Stress, say, I just want to come to this, that probably the most extreme part of stress, and I'll use the word burnout rather than stress. Burnout, in my opinion, is when someone completely gives up and unfortunately commits suicide. I want to share a small story with you, Charvi, before I ask you for your knowledge and your explanation. Is when I was a young boy in the third standard, I have witnessed a suicide.
Oh.
So it was middle of the night. We heard a lot of screams from the road. People were like, "Arey, piche jao, piche jao." We opened the window. My grandparents were with me at that point of time, ghar pe. We opened the window, and there is a 4-story building in front of me, plus a terrace, and there's like a tanki on the terrace, the water tank. In front of me, a lady jumped from the water tank. And obviously, you know what will happen on impact. Now, when she was jumping, I heard a very loud scream, a female screaming. And trust me, and obviously it makes sense, I thought the lady who's jumping actually was the one who was screaming.
Yeah.
But turns out the next day I find out that she wasn't even screaming. It was someone who witnessed the same thing from my building who screamed. I don't know. I'm still not very clear on this. How can a person completely go so numb in life that even in the final moments or something, you've got no feeling inside, nothing, and you commit suicide? It still sends shivers, because when I witnessed it.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you this because I'm describing suicide as, let's say, the final step of stress.
Yeah.
burnout. What do you think is the psychological state of such people?
Yeah. Yeah. Firstly, that's a very unfortunate incident. I'm sorry about that. And the fact that you witnessed it, I'm sure it was very frightening for you to witness that. And it can have, I'm sure, trauma attached to it. So, what really happens in the minds of people who are attempting a suicide or dying by suicide? Very, very important thing. And I think, how you mentioned what you asked those people, right? This is what we think, that people who die by suicide are some people who we don't know, people who we don't connect with, who are not the usual day to day people who we talk to and meet. This is what we believe, that people who we don't know, who are probably in a very
Mhm.
different state. But to sort of break this myth right here, it can be one of us, it can be anyone we know. So it's not really, this mindset is not as alien as we think it is. It can be you, it can be me. And to be very honest, I think I have come to a place, and I actively talked about it on social media also. I think there was a time, I think 1.5 year ago, where I was in that moment where I felt very suicidal. Of course, there was no attempt and I came out of it. And because I had a lot of resources with me
Mhm.
that helped me come out of it. But a lot of people don't have those resources. They don't know what it really means to be in that moment. And obviously, it's not the first resort to sort of just die.
Mhm.
It's mostly people's last resort after they have tried everything
Mhm.
and they still haven't felt better. That emotional pain is so strong, so painful, and you're feeling so low. Your self esteem is so low in that moment where you feel like the world will be better off without you. So I hear a lot of people whenever such incidents happen, there are a lot of comments that come that, okay, how selfish of them. They didn't think
Hmm.
about their family. If they had children, they didn't think about their children. How selfish that they only thought about themselves, and they killed themselves. But they truly believe in that moment that people will be better off without them. That if they have children, their children will be better off without them. If they have parents, so on and so forth. Their self worth has dipped down so much, and their emotional pain is so much that the only way they feel like they can put an end to this is by killing themselves.
Mhm. Okay. I don't know. It's just something
Yeah.
probably which you and me can't relate to. Probably you probably better
Yeah.
because you're a psychologist. You deal with so many patients, and very
Yeah.
brave of you, obviously, to
Yeah.
share about your own personal story. But how in your practice, what is the number of people that you see who are having these suicidal ideas or tendencies, or how many? What is
Yeah.
the percentage, if you could tell me?
So one is people seriously considering suicide, and then there are people who have ideations.
Mm-hmm.
And why I'm distinguishing is that when it comes to ideation, it is very, very common. Anybody who sort of deals with anxiety, depression, they can, from time to time, they can come to a place. And in fact, even as usual, like day to day, when we deal with certain challenges, समटाइम्स वो मन में आ जाता है कि अरे इससे तो मर जाते तो बेटर होता, और
Hmm.
जस्ट I just want my life to end. Sometimes these thoughts do come to even us. So that is just like ideation. I don't want to act on it yet. I don't want to attempt a suicide, but I'm just so frustrated that I'm just like, I wish, I was just not living only right now. So that is one state, and that is a very common state. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people come in. So if you get the right kind of support, if you have, good connections with people, and you have good resilience in that moment wherein you have friends and family you can talk to, you have the right kind of professional support even, or things in your life are start getting better,
Mm-hmm.
your environment or whatever you're struggling with, those challenges get better, you come out of that state very quickly,
Okay.
right? But people who sort of very, clearly they want to attempt, a
Mm-hmm.
suicide, or they're very serious about, doing it, most often that they were in this previous state wherein they just considered it, but they were not able to sort of shoo away with it, or for whatever reasons, so there are many factors. Of course, it's not as simple that there is only one factor. It's a very complex state. But some of the factors that include is, isolation, when they feel very, very disconnected from people.
Mm-hmm.
Typically they feel like nobody understands them.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody will be able to understand them if they sort of speak about it, talk about it. And it comes from genuine, perhaps, that they have tried to talk to people, but perhaps it hasn't been taken seriously. You know, a lot of people just like think that, oh, he must be just joking, or it's just like an attention seeking thing. So believe me, you know, there are clients whose suicidal ideations have been considered an attention seeking behavior. Like they
Really?
have literally come to
Hmm.
me and told me that, look, I told this to my parents and they were like, you know, stop seeking attention like this. So it is real, because I think while we take suicide very seriously when we talk about it, but a lot of times when people come to us and they share, we often like dismiss it. We think it's a joke or they don't really mean it, because the same reason we feel that, you know, people who we know, they will never do something like this, you know, but it's really people who we know, you know, can do it.
Basically, nothing should be taken lightly,
Should.
especially when it comes to mental health. Nothing should be taken lightly. Statistically, do you feel women are the one who commit more suicides, or is it men?
Yeah. Firstly, I would like to just correct you a little bit here,
Okay.
pardon me, but like when we say commit suicide, it also sort of adds to the stigma of suicide when we
Mhm.
consider suicide as a criminal offense, you know, when it's like a crime, but
Mhm.
it's again, it's a mental health, you know, it's an illness, you know.
So, what should be the correct
Yeah, so
term?
the correct, or like I think the term that we are using more now is like dying by suicide.
Dying by.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, women die
Yeah.
more by suicide, or men, or what is the statistics?
So I think from my awareness and understanding of the data that I have seen, I found that women attempt suicide more,
Mhm.
but men are more successful at it. And at the same time, of course, the percentage of men dying by suicide is much higher. It's like 70% of people who die by
Wow.
suicide are men. So that is a very stark statistics, right? It sort of makes us question that what is really going on. So I think my understanding of it is, one is, of course, men have a lot of pressure, that innate pressure in this society, in our culture, that, you know, they are considered to be the breadwinner.
Mhm.
They are considered to be someone who's responsible for financially supporting a family. And so automatically, when they face challenges in that domain, it makes them feel like a complete failure, you know, which is very hard to shake off. So that's one. And secondly, I think that idea of masculinity, you know, that also sort of encourages men to express emotions lesser. You
Mm.
know, they are not encouraged to be vulnerable. They are encouraged to be, you know, to toughen it up, you know, to
True.
just to handle all their problems by themselves. And hence, that sort of stops them from really talking about it and seeking help. So I think the difference here is that it's, while women face anxiety and depression a lot more statistically, but because they are able to talk about it, they're able to vent, and they don't hesitate too much to sort of share, it becomes easier for them to have an outlet.
Got it.
But men, very rarely they have that outlet. They don't trust that outlet enough, for obviously, for
You
obvious
feel men
reasons.
should talk more, be more
Yeah,
open about it, and communicate
absolutely.
better about their
Yeah,
mental
and I
health.
think it's just as a whole, not just men. I think the onus also is on women, on all of us actually, that when men talk about it, we must not tell them to toughen it up. You know, I think we must be responsible with their vulnerability, and we must not equate it to
Mhm.
weakness when they're reaching out or breaking down. You know, I think
Mhm.
it's also like that responsibility is also
Got
on
it.
on everyone actually.
Got it. Okay. चारवी बीच में आपने मेंशन किया था कि women suffer from anxiety and depression more. I just want to pick on depression.
Yeah.
You know, I somehow feel that I hear this also quite often कि depression बहुत ही दिन में कम से कम 10-15 times हर एक जन use करता है. अरे यार ये मत
Yeah.
कर, या मैं depress हो जाऊंगा, ये नहीं
Yeah.
depressed. So it's become a very second nature sort of colloquial term.
Yeah.
You are a psychologist. I think you must really be seeing the end of depression when they come to you and they've got all these suicidal ideas and all of this. You think it's fair to be so colloquial about the word depression?
Absolutely not. You know, I think we must definitely not use the term so loosely. So I think that's the other side of talking
Mhm.
about mental health. A lot of people have started, you know, using this. You know, we call it the therapy speak, therapy
Mhm.
language. They've started using it to sort of just get out of something. So
Okay.
obviously, while the more talk we have, I know the other side will always exist when
Mhm.
people start using it loosely and not
Mhm.
very, very mindfully. So to them, I would just like to say that it can really dismiss the actual experiences of people who are, you know, sort of dealing with depression, because it's not something just normal sadness
Mhm.
that we face during the day. That is not depression. And the term depressed, I'm feeling depressed itself perhaps is incorrect,
Mhm.
because you are either dealing with clinical depression, or you're dealing with or there is no diagnosis.
Okay.
So perhaps a better word to use would be that, okay, I'm feeling sad, or I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling disappointed. Like there's so many, I think,
Different
feeling
words.
words that
Yeah.
come in the vocabulary. So depression should be used when it's like clinically diagnosed. But yeah, at the same time, it shouldn't mean that we must stop talking about depression.
Okay.
So to just explain, what depression and how sadness it really differs, I sort of use two markers to sort of differentiate. And maybe as people also, we can sort of use those markers to know when we must seek help, or when it's serious, and you
Okay.
must not take it lightly anymore. So there are two things. One is that when it is consistently going on for days,
Mhm.
like sadness is supposed to be that comes and goes. But let's say you are continuously sad for, over a week, and it's just not going away, and it's intense. So one is the longevity of it, that no matter what, it's not going away, it's staying and it's continuing. And the second is it starts affecting your functionality, your day to day. When it starts affecting your work, your productivity, that it's a problem. And I would say this is not just with depression, with any kind of mental health problem. The moment you see your functionality getting impacted, and if something is there for long, it's something that you must sort of reach out to a specialist and
Okay.
figure out what's going on.
So that's the two ways that you feel that the patients will present to you. One is
Yeah.
they're constantly sad for a prolonged period of time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
second is when it starts affecting their day-to-day activities or something like that.
Yeah, but
Okay.
like to make it if we are going to go more in depth about depression, then of
Mhm.
course it sort of shows for a caregiver how they might recognize is that there is a lot of they might go into isolation. Like a lot of people with depression, they stop they start sort of socially
Mhm.
reducing their interactions, and they
Okay.
go into their cocoon. Then there is something called anhedonia. To
Mhm.
break it down, it just means that when you start losing interest in the things that you liked doing in the past. So I loved watching movies, and now suddenly movies don't interest me also anymore. It's a
Mhm.
big red flag. So there are people who sleep a lot when there is depression, and then there are people who sort of sleep very less also. So any change in your sleep pattern is also something that we must be mindful of. Change in appetite also,
Mhm.
that you used to eat very well, and now you're just like rarely hungry, or you're hungry a lot, you're like sort of just binge eating. That is also, so it manifests differently in different
Differently in
people.
different people.
But the inherent part is that there are three things, which is it affects your self-worth to a big
Mhm.
extent. You might find people who are in depression saying that, oh, I'm such a failure, I'm good for nothing, I'm not good enough. You might find them saying these terms. And secondly, you might find them feeling very, very helpless about their situation. They
Mhm.
might say something like, yeah, but no matter what I do, I know, it's not going to change. I know I'm feeling stuck. Like nothing that I do is changing where I am. They might also sort of state things about hopelessness, wherein
Mhm.
they're like, no, what's the point of going to that doctor? I don't think anybody can help me.
Mhm.
So you know that they have reached that state of hopelessness where they feel like no matter what they do, nothing is going to change what they're feeling.
Got it. Got it. A lot to take in,
A lot to take
But
in,
but
yeah.
I mean, the statement which you made about the sleep, either lack of sleep
Yeah.
or too much appetite, either
Yeah.
lack of appetite or you eat,
Yeah.
you binge eat or something. That is what really fascinates me about psychology and psychiatry, which is
Yeah.
why I really respect you guys, because
Mhm.
same stimulus,
Yeah.
but the body just reacts differently. It is so
Yeah.
difficult for you to come to a conclusive
Yeah.
diagnosis or something, which is why I really
Yeah.
respect you. I think we've had a roller coaster, podcast.
Yeah.
But Charvi, it's my request, please, if you can just stay probably 2 or 3 lines in conclusion for everyone
Hmm.
with regards to their mental health. Anything.
I think, while there are so many things I want to say, but I think one thing I would just say is that, that when it comes to seeking therapy, it's not for any, you don't have to meet any criteria to sort of go to a therapist. A lot of people ask me that, hey, does my problem qualify enough to come to therapy?
Mhm.
But there is no qualification that you need. There is no criteria you have to meet. At any point of time, when you feel like that, yeah, you're facing a challenge and, you would like some extra help, you know, any point of time, it's okay. Whether your problem is something really silly or it's something so humongous that you think you can't, nobody will understand it. For anything, you can really just go to them. And in fact, therapy can help even with, even if you don't have a problem, you just want to work on self growth. That itself is like a great thing to work upon. So if you have the time and investment, just go there, because it really is a privilege. If you think you can even think of going to a therapist, it means that you have the basic means to really do that, which not a lot of people in our country have. So use that privilege, go to a therapist. I think it can benefit everyone. So I keep saying this, therapy is for everyone. Mental health is for everyone.
Perfect. I think lovely 2 lines to end this podcast. Thank you so much, Charvi, for agreeing to be a part of Detox with Dr. Kapil. I hope the audience has had a lovely time.
I hope so too. I had a lovely time interacting with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Whoa, we really had a very fruitful discussion about mental health on this podcast. Right from social media addiction to depression to suicides to stress and how we respond to it. I think Charvi was on the tee in every single aspect. अफसोस की बात यह है दोस्तों कि I think I have been diagnosed with social media addiction and I need to start doing something about it. But hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. Please follow, share, subscribe, like, and please reply to me who do you want to listen to in my next podcast. तब तक please देखते रहिए Detox with Dr. Kapil.